Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, and this month we are talking about really things about women and how what we do, what we eat impacts our hormonal health. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so we are looking at all things related to estrogen, related to I can't say that word today, hormonal health, because we know that it all impacts each other, right? And so today we are going to focus in on Mark 5, and this is when the healing happens with the woman and she is restored. Let's back up here a little bit. I don't know about you, but have any of you had any sort of bleeding problems? It seems to be more common than ever, like PCOS, like having hormonal problems, whether it is extended bleeding, super heavy bleeding, cysts on ovaries, things of that nature. It seems to be rising. I feel like PCOS especially is something that more and more women are getting, just like breast cancer. And when we really look at our environment, the way we're eating and all of these things, it makes sense. And so let's talk a little bit first about how our liver is impacted by all of this. So what happens is our liver is the very thing that processes estrogen. Well, if our liver function is damaged or it is not working properly because of all of these external factors, which we will talk about, then we're going to have symptoms. Then we're going to have heavy menstrual periods. We're going to have terrible cramping. We could develop PCOS. So all of this is impacted, and really what it boils down is to our liver, which often is not the thing that is looked at when you go to the OBGYN, right? They're looking at your uterus, your ovaries, and they're not thinking about your liver function. But guys, it is so important because your liver is the very thing that is processing the estrogen. And when you have excess estrogen, we know cancer is at high risk. We know that heavy bleeding is at high risk, along with a ton of other symptoms. And so it is imperative for us to look at the liver versus, actually your uterus. And so also, it is really important. Yes, bad cramps all of the time. I know, guys, I'm right there with you. Most of these things that I talk about is because they're stuff that I have dealt with. And so it is so important for us to really begin to look at our environment, how we are living on a daily basis. But number one thing is, first and foremost, God is our healer, right? He is our Jehovah Rapha. And so we need to run to him first. In anything and everything, we need to run to him first. A lot of times we just deal with our symptoms. A lot of times we think, well, it's been like this forever, so this is what it is, right? A lot of times we run to our doctor. But how many times do we run to God and say, you know what? First and foremost, you are my creator and you are also my healer. So I am going to run to you and I am going to pray and remain in hope and in faith that you will heal me, right? Now, sometimes that is through a doctor, sometimes it is not, but we need to run to him first. And for me personally, my heavy periods, my terrible cramps, my cysts on my ovaries, all of these things became normal. And I just thought, okay, well, this is how it is. And my doctors tried to convince me to go on birth control and all of this stuff. And that was their answer. And I was like, no, this can't be the way. And when I'm bleeding so bad, I can't barely leave my house. There's a problem, right? And so, learning all of this stuff has been just, okay, hold on. I don't need to live this way. And God has given us so much knowledge today that, when we really look at it, if we go back to our original forms that we were designed to live in, right? The world we were he created for us, but us humans polluted it, right? We've messed with the food. We've messed with the toxins. We've, created things that are genetically modified. We put chemicals on our skin. We breathe toxins. I mean, guys, this is not the world God created for us. And so that doesn't mean there hasn't been blessings in it. That doesn't mean he's not in it. But what it does mean is that humans are sinful. Humans are toxic, and we have then created other toxic things that essentially has created toxins within our body, making us sick. And so, first and foremost, we run to God, right? Secondly, know that it's not normal, and there also is hope. And, we look at this story in Mark, and this woman had been bleeding, guys, for 12 years. Could you imagine bleeding for 12 years? Like, I cannot even imagine that. And on top of it, if we go back in Leviticus, it talks all about how women were unclean. And so she not only was dealing with this terrible problem of bleeding all of the time, which is, as we know, horrific and uncomfortable, and on top of it you get symptoms from that itself, right? You're iron deficient, you are probably anemic, for sure anemic at that point, and you get headaches and whatever, right? There's so many additional symptoms that this woman had to have been feeling, and then on top of it they're like, you're unclean, nobody can go near you. How awful. For 12 years. Could you imagine how that would feel? Truthfully, if I was in her shoes, I don't know that I would have been like, you know what, I still have hope for healing. I don't know, because that is just terrible. And so anyways, as this woman who is deemed unclean, she's not supposed to be around people, she's, who even knows how they, I don't know how you had, they obviously didn't have things like menstrual cups or, tampons or pads back then. I'm sure they created something, but bleeding for that long, what does that even look like? Who knows? She could have blood on her. I don't know. But so let me read this word here. It says, a large crowd followed and pressed around him. They're talking about Jesus walking through. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she got worse. So her symptoms weren't getting better. She was getting worse. And all the doctors basically said, we don't know how to help you. This is it, right? And yet, you guys, when she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. Now, there's a couple of different things I want to talk about here, because we can look at this story and be like, wow, what a miracle. That's amazing, right? But think about the faith that this woman had, the determination that this woman had, and the hope that this woman had. After 12 years of being told, sorry, we don't know, you're deemed unclean, we can't help you, being turned away, right? And she keeps getting worse. For 12 years, this woman says, instead of saying, well, my life is over, I might as well just die, she says, no, I'm going to fight through this crowd, and I am going to make my way through this crowd, because I know that if I just touch Jesus's cloak, I don't even have to touch him, I don't even have to speak to him, I will be healed. I know it. I have hope and I have faith. She did not lose that hope, you guys. She ran to Jesus. She got to Jesus. She had to have fought through that crowd. It says there was a huge crowd around him that were literally pressed around him, right? So she wasn't like, oh, I see Jesus, I'm just gonna walk on over. No, she made a way. She was determined to touch his cloak. So she didn't lose her faith in this time, right? And she she had this hope. After 12 years, she didn't lose hope, you guys. I hear this today. I don't know what situation you're in where you feel like, I don't know when this is ever going to end. Guys, this is her. She's like, I don't know when this is ever going to end, but I'm not going to lose hope in Jesus. Whatever that situation is for you today, do not lose hope, sister. Do not lose hope. It may take 20, 30 years. I don't know. But don't lose hope, because God is true to who he is, and he is a healer. And then her thoughts were on track. Her thoughts were not those of doubt, of fear, of death. Her thoughts were literally, if I just touch his cloak. So her thoughts were in line with the truth of Jesus, right? Her thoughts were not being swayed by her situation. Her thoughts were on track. They were aligned, right? We've talked about this last week. Her thoughts are aligned with the Lord's. And although I'm sure she did have doubts, she fought to renew her mind to keep them aligned with him, right? And then, she just believed, and she went, right? So she took action. So her thoughts were in line. She didn't lose hope. She had that belief and just went. So she took action. It didn't matter what the world was telling her, you're unclean, you're unclean. No, she forged a way, right, to get to Jesus. So my question to you today is, we look at this crowd around Jesus, right? We could look at that as a blocking point, right? We could look at that as, well, there's just too much happening. I can't get there, right? And so those could be things that are keeping you from Jesus. Or you can say, no. All this stuff that's happening, it doesn't matter. I'm getting to Jesus. Like, what is your drive towards? Is it to Jesus, or is it, I'm distracted by all these things. It's like craziness happening, right? I mean, what are those things in your life? Like, are you determined to get to Jesus in your healing, in your marriage, in your, loneliness, in your, whatever that is, right? How determined are you to have a touch of Jesus in your life? Are you willing to fight for it? Are you willing to push the crowd? Are you willing to go a different way than everybody else? Are you willing to stand out in a crowd? Are you willing to be called unclean? I mean, what are those things in your life that are holding you back? And what is your mindset on? Is it on him, or is it on all these other worldly distractions? We need to be fighting to get close to Jesus. We need to be willing to push through the crowd. We need to be willing to not listen to the lies of the enemy and this world, right? And even doctors, and say, no, my hope is in Jesus. My hope is in him. We need to stay steadfast on him throughout the drought season, throughout those long wilderness seasons when it feels like life is caving in and things will never get better. We need to remain in hope. We need to fight for that, because the world will tell you to be hopeless. The world will tell you to give up. And Jesus says, no, do not give up. Because even though it might have been 12 years, even though it might have been 25 years, I am still here, and I am still who I will always be. And I'm your healer, and I'm your provider, right? So we need to cling to that. So run to him with your issues in your body, your health concerns, all of those things. And then, along with that comes the physical side. There's so many things that we can do, right? So I talked about this world is not the same. This world is not the same that he initially put us in, right? And so number one is aligning your mind, right? And knowing that the Lord is there with you and will heal you in time, right? Because sometimes our own stress, our own doubt, our own fear, all of our mindset impacts then our liver, because any stress, period, will impact our liver function. So number one is to, give it to God, trust the Lord, and eliminate that stress, right? But then we also have to look at the physical stress. What are those things in our life that we are doing on a daily basis that are impacting our liver, which then impacts, as I mentioned, the process of estrogen within our body? So I'm just going to go through some things here, and think about how often you use these things. Okay. So plastic products, plastic bottles, BPA impacts, that is a toxin. So it impacts your liver function. Parabens and phthalates, which are all in skincare, in makeups, in lotions, in sunscreen, in hair care products, in soaps, right? All of those things, everything that you put on your body, okay, matters because it is absorbed. Your skin is your largest organ. So it is absorbed and it goes to your liver and it impacts your liver function and your inability to actually detox and get rid of things. So all of that matters. Let's go into what we're actually consuming, right? So pesticides, herbicides, any sort of chemicals that we are ingesting. So this includes our water. This includes what foods we eat, right? So we want to eliminate processed foods, any processed foods, right? We want to eliminate the sugars and eliminate the pop. All of those things matter. Also, caffeine impacts our liver. So when we're drinking alcohol and caffeine and we have an increased stress in our life, it could be, like a move, it could be work, it could be relational, whatever that looks like, those all don't allow your body to detoxify, meaning it doesn't help your liver to detoxify from all these other chemicals that we're being bombarded with all the time, right? Which I mentioned. So it's water bottles, plastic containers that you're even putting your food in. It's makeup, lotions, shampoo, literally everything. Think about your day. Like, I'm going to take a moment here. I'm going to be quiet. From this morning, now we're only a couple hours into the day. From this morning, did you use a plastic water bottle? Did you pull something out of a plastic bag? Did you wash your hair? Did you wash your face? Did you wash your hands? Did you put lotion on? Did you put makeup on? Now, I'm not saying all of your stuff has chemicals in it, because maybe you're already aware of this. But if you're not aware of this, every single one of those things now has impacted your hormones, has impacted your periods, has impacted your breasts, has impacted your liver. So this is why I'm so passionate about sacred health, because it's not just what we're eating and what we are drinking. It is literally from head to toe how we live. Okay, so we always need to be looking on ways to reduce stress, whether it is, stress on our bodies, which includes all of those things that I just listed, or it is actual stress, meaning, removing certain things out of our life so we can live stress-free or less stress, right? We'll never be fully stress-free. Little bits of stress aren't a bad thing. They actually move us to take action, right? But when we are constantly under stress, like being in an abusive relationship or something like that, or even like if your work life is terrible, or, you are never taking those Sabbath days and you are just go all of the time, those things impact you. And so we need to look for ways to reduce stress. We know that exercise helps to reduce stress. We know that resting reduces stress. We know that stretching reduces stress. We know that getting outside and being in nature reduces stress, right? So there's lots of things that we can do to reduce stress, right? And then obviously, rooting yourself in the Word. That is the biggest stress reliever, because He imparts on you His truth, His peace, His joy, which cannot happen outside of Him, right? So these are all things that impact us. So practically, the things that you can be doing, as I just mentioned, exercising, getting outside, breathing fresh air, clearly eliminating those toxins, right? So finding a glass water bottle to drink out of, or something like a hydro flask, removing the plastic like containers in your home and replacing them with glass, replacing your Teflon cookware with, things like cast iron and things of that nature, right? And there's other things. And don't get me wrong, don't think like, oh my gosh, I have to go home and throw everything out and buy new stuff. Like, I don't have the money for that. This is a process, okay? This is a total process, and I understand that. And we are still going through it because, unfortunately, when we, started as a family and bought all these things and had our wedding registry years and years ago, I wasn't aware of all this stuff. And you think, awesome, nonstick Teflon, let's do that. Cooking sheets, nonstick, let's do that. Convenience, right? We have traded in our health for convenience, and we need to be aware of this and just slowly, change things around. And honestly, guys, like, I'm all about finding good deals. Garage sales are amazing. So is Goodwill. I have found, like, I switched out all of my baking stuff and my casserole dishes and my like banana bread, my bread dishes. I found them so cheap in glass because that's how everybody used to make stuff, right? So people have gotten rid of that because they're like, oh, I don't want this anymore. I want the convenience. And I'm the other way. I'm like, give me that. Give me the glass. And I'm getting rid of my convenience, my, non-stick stuff. You just use avocado oil or coconut oil or something that is going to, still give you that non-stick, but it's not toxic. And so, those are actually really fantastic places to replace your things because people have gotten rid of them. So everybody's getting rid of their old stuff. I'm like, yeah, no, give me that. Give me all the glassware. Like, that's what I need in my life. So we want to avoid plastics and any of those non-stick type things. We also want to be aware of our skin and all that. So making that transition over to natural skincare. I partnered with a company called Earthly. I've posted about them before. I love them. I am obsessed with this company. That's also where I get my liver detox. That's where I get like so many things. But they have completely natural and holistic and organic ingredients. And so I get all my soaps from there. I get my face care from there. I get my shampoo from there. I get like all of it, guys. And they have amazing supplements as well. So I'm going to post their link below because I highly recommend their liver detox. I take it multiple times a day. And I love it. And truthfully, I feel so good right now. And that's actually hard for me to say because I felt terrible a lot of the time before. So things that you can take that support your liver, right? So their B vitamins are super important. Like if you're somebody that gets really emotional during periods or you cry easily, you definitely need to up your B vitamins, which my ketones actually have B vitamins in them as well. So I'm always looking for ways to add in all of these vitamins and nutrients and minerals into my daily so that, and consistently throughout the day, right? It's not just like one time. I'm consistently adding them throughout the day to get those benefits. Selenium, vitamin E, vitamin A, vitamin C, copper, zinc. Those are some really great ones. Also, I don't know if I mentioned, but we want to reduce caffeine. We want to reduce the caffeine intake that we are having. So breaking from coffee for a while is a good idea, especially if you're somebody that drinks it every day or multiple times a day. That also is taxing on your liver. And switching over to green tea and spearmint tea. This spearmint tea has been proven to help specifically with PCOS. So switching that over is a great idea, including spices in your cooking. And this is something I do all the time. I literally add this to almost everything. Turmeric and rosemary. So I don't add rosemary to everything just because that's a super strong flavor, but I'm telling you guys, I add turmeric to everything. Especially if you don't add a lot of it, you actually really don't taste the flavor. So my kids are always like, why is this chicken orange? And I'm like, oh, it's just the spices I use. And it's the turmeric, but I literally add it to everything. It's a great anti-inflammatory and it helps support your liver. Eating enough protein is really important. The amino acids in that are really important for your liver. Having lemon and citrus is really great as well. So as I always recommend, you start your day with a warm glass of lemon water, and drinking lemon water throughout your day. That's a really easy way to get your lemon and vitamin C in there. Eating organic, non-sprayed foods, right? We talked about this. So eliminating pesticides and herbicides from your diet is really important. Eating things that are grass-fed, like your beef is grass-fed, not grain-fed. Those are important things as well. And let's see, what else am I missing here? Eating cruciform vegetables, super important. Okay, so foods that you can eat are things like broccoli, cabbage, kale, sprouts. Sprouts are an amazing thing. Broccoli sprout is amazing for your liver. Dandelion root, beet root, so juicing beets, dandelions, you guys, first off, they make a dandelion tea, but if your property is not sprayed, if you have grass and your property is not sprayed, go outside and pick dandelions. I know that might feel really weird because you're like, this is a weed. This is like, I was thinking about this the other day. How worldly have we become, even when we call things and herbs that God has given us readily available to help heal our body, we call them weeds. And we've made them something ugly and evil and something that we try to get rid of. And yet, dandelions are so healing to our bodies. Every single person should be eating or drinking a dandelion tea. It is so healing to our bodies, and yet this world has ingrained in our minds that they're weeds. When we see them, we're like, oh, we have weeds in our yard. No, you actually have healing properties in your yard, and that's pretty sweet. So go pick your dandelion, the greens, and you can eat them in salads. You can boil them down. You can saute them. You can add them in with spinach. You could make a tea or a tincture out of it. Like however you decide. There's so many different ways that you can consume them. Just look it up on Google. So cauliflower, asparagus, kale, sprouts, artichokes, what am I missing here? Mustard greens, dandelions, carrots, grapefruit, blueberries, cranberries, not dried, no added sugar, organic. Red and purple grapes are a great option. I said beets, something like any fatty fish, omega-3s, right? So salmon, you don't want farm salmon, you always want fresh salmon. Curcumin, olive oil, turmeric, and garlic. And I think I said walnuts. Maybe I didn't say walnuts. Those are all great foods to incorporate in your daily diet to help you with liver function, which, remember guys, this is ultimately your hormonal function, which is the very thing that helps fight cancer and helps fight PCOS, helps fight bleeding, helps fight cramping, all of those things, even tender breasts, right? We talked about that last time with the iodine. And then consider doing a liver support supplements, right? So having those B vitamins, having the, I mentioned the liver support that I take, utilizing things that are going to help support you. So it eliminates the question, like, am I having enough things that are actually detoxing my liver and keeping it healthy and clean? For a matter of fact, you're taking, 1 or 2 of those droppers a day and your liver is good. You're good to go, right? So taking care of your liver is imperative for hormonal health. So I am going to drop below the link let you know the supplements that I utilize for this very thing. And I will tell you just my personal testimony. I literally used to not be able to leave my house when I had my period. And I was afraid actually to leave my house. Sometimes I had to, but I literally had to wear a like literally it felt like a diaper, because I was so afraid of bleeding out, and I still would bleed out. It was terrible. It was terrible. And I felt sick and I had cramps and it was just awful. And since I began implementing all of these things, so eliminating toxins, eliminating plastics, supporting my body with this liver detox, and eating a little differently, guys, I don't have that anymore. Like, my periods are so short, they're light, and I actually feel good. I don't feel like raging. I used to feel like I was gonna rage like a couple days before my period, and like almost like I had tamed this monster inside of me. It was like this monster wanted to come out and scream, and I had to be like, no, breathe, this is not me, this is not me, this is not me. And it was a terrible feeling, you guys. And I don't know if you have any of those same type things, let me know, because this can help and it can totally transform you. Do not have to live that way. You do not have to live that way. So I'm going to post those things below so that it is easy and helpful for you to just implement some of those things into your own life. And remember, continually run to Jesus. Do not lose hope. Know that there is answers, there is solutions, and we'll continue to talk about women's health the rest of this month, giving you tips and tricks and really what God says about all of this stuff as well, and how he is our healer. So you guys have a blessed day. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.